Hi, future yoga friends. It's nice to meet you again. I guess this is a little more official than Facebook. I'm really looking forward to leading the anatomy portion of your yoga teacher training course at the end of the month. Coming into this, I wasn't sure what everyone's background was as far as anatomy was concerned, so I wanted to provide you with a little bit of foundational and fundamental content as we prepare for the more intense anatomy portion. So this is an application called Prezi. You can scroll through it using the arrow keys on your keyboard. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys. The human body is an incredible machine made up of many diverse and dynamic systems that all work together to keep us moving and grooving and doing all the things we love. Let's consider a few of the systems independently for a moment. The nervous system coordinates voluntary and involuntary actions and transmits signals between different parts of the body. Generally broken down into two main parts, the central nervous system consisting of the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system consisting mainly of nerves. The respiratory system consists of specific organs and structures involved in the intake and exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between us and the environment, including the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, and the thoracic diaphragm, our primary muscle of respiration. However, we will be talking a lot more about this system later. The circulatory system permits blood and lymph circulation to transport nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, hormones, and blood cells throughout the body to nourish it, help fight infection, stabilize body temperature and pH, and generally maintain homeostasis. In humans and other vertebrates, this is a closed system, meaning the blood never leaves the network of arteries, veins, and capillaries. The lymphatic system, on the other hand, is open, providing alternate routes for excess fluid to be returned to the blood. The endocrine system is the collection of glands that secretes hormones directly into the circulatory system to be carried throughout the body. The major glands are the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the pancreas, ovaries, testes, thyroid, and parathyroid glands. The hypothalamus and the adrenal glands are included too. This is not to be confused with the exocrine system, which secretes hormones using ducts, such as the sweat, salivary, and mammary glands. The liver is also an exocrine gland. Think of it this way. Exo means out in Greek, and endo means inside or within. Okay, we aren't really going to talk about this one, although it is turbo important. I just couldn't resist that zoom. Although two separate systems, the skeletal and the muscular system, are often grouped together as the musculoskeletal system, or the organ system that gives humans the ability to move. Now that we're starting to see the dynamic interplays between systems, it makes sense to think of these together, because independently we'd either just be a static skeleton or a puddle of muscle. However, like we touched on before, without the nervous system we aren't getting very far either. The bulk of our time is going to be spent on understanding how this system functions, so we really are going to take some time to break it down and get a solid foundation. Just investigating a few of these systems individually, it is easy to see how deeply integrated they are with one another. When you consider how effortlessly you reach for a cup of coffee, sit up straight, and pay attention to my rambling, it's easy to forget how truly complex and amazing we really are. Like any complex system, each part must function seamlessly together. When one is out of sync, the others begin to take up the slack and suffer for it. There are many paths to mind and body wellness. For me, yoga certainly is part of my journey, but I also believe it begins with a deep understanding and appreciation for our beautiful machines. Let's get a little terminology in so we're all speaking the same language when we meet up. This is anatomical position. Look familiar? Kind of like mountain pose, right? Because animals are always moving in relation to our environment, this is the reference point for all positional and descriptive terms when referring to the body. The anatomical directions are as follows. Anterior, or ventral, means towards the front of the body. Posterior, or dorsal, toward the back. Think of it this way. The back of a whale is where the dorsal fin is. Superior, or cranial, closer to the head. Inferior, or caudal, closer to the feet. Caudal is a term for tail. Medial, towards the midline of the body. Lateral, away from the midline of the body. Proximal is moving closer in towards the trunk, while distal means moving further away, out towards your fingers or your toes. Superficial is a depth term. It means closer towards the surface of the body. Deep is the opposite. It's away from the surface of the body, going deeper in towards your organs and all that good stuff inside. We also divide the body up into planes. The sagittal plane divides the body vertically into left and right halves of equal size. Flexion and extension happen in the sagittal plane. Flexion describes a bending movement that decreases the angle between two parts. Bending the elbow or clenching the hand into a fist are both examples of flexion. Extension describes a straightening movement that increases the angle between body parts. When standing, the knees are extended. Extension of the hip or the shoulder moves the limb backward. The frontal plane divides the body equally into front and back halves. Abduction or abduction and adduction, adduction, side flexion of the trunk all occur in the frontal plane. Abduction is a motion that pulls a structure or part away from the midline of the body. Spreading the fingers and toes apart, raising the arms laterally like a big sun breath are both examples of abduction. Adduction or adduction is a motion that pulls a structure or a part toward the midline of the body. Dropping your arms to your side or bringing your knees together are adduction. The transverse plane divides the body equally into top and bottom halves. Rotation of the head, neck, and trunk all occur in the transverse plane. Our bodies were made to move. We've already touched on a few of the basic movements: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction. But we all know from personal experience we hardly ever move in straight planes. Let's look at a couple of special movements in the body. Circumduction is movement that travels through space around the axis of the body, taking a cone shape. There are a lot of special movements that occur in the hands, the feet, and the head. Supination and pronation refer to the rotation of the forearm or the foot so that the palm or sole is facing anteriorly with supination or posteriorly with pronation. Palm up, like you could hold some soup, supination. Palm down, pronation. Bending your ankle and your toes superiorly is dorsiflexion. Remember, flexion decreases the angle between two parts, so we are reducing the angle between the top of the foot and the shin. Pointing your toes inferiorly is termed plantar flexion. Plantar flexion may appear to break our angle rule, however, anatomically it is described as decreasing the angle between the sole of the foot, or the plantar surface, and the back of the leg. But anatomists do love breaking their rules, so just remember, ballerinas like to point their toes, pointing toes, plantar flexion. Inversion and eversion refer to the movements that tilt the sole of the foot away from the midline of the body, or eversion, or towards the midline of the body, inversion. Most ankle sprains are inversion ankle sprains, when you roll over that ankle, bringing the sole in towards the midline of your body.